Hello, and welcome to PCWorld.com. I am Hayden Dingman, and I am here with Brad Charkis.
Hello, Internet.
And I am here with Adam Patrick Murray.
Hey, that's me, but this is the first time Brad's been on a gameplay video, right?
Yeah, and he's sort of here.
Yeah.
Brad is watching from across the country as we play Metro Exodus, which is...
Feels like home. Looks right out, like just outside my window.
Yeah,
Cold and wintry.
This is what it looks like. We actually had snow here in San Francisco this week, so it's been pretty wild here too. But yeah, we are checking out Metro Exodus, which is almost out finally. It is a little bit buggy.
Just a little bit.
So far.
We've run into a couple bugs here and there, but...
hopefully most of that gets fixed before next week, but before release this week, I guess.
And how far are you into it right now?
I am at home. I am like probably a third of the way through. I just made it to the second of the big maps, but we are here on the first of the big maps, and we're pretty early on. You can see most of our map is still not colored in yet. So we've done a couple of story missions. We've done the prologue, which is a very linear section. But the difference between this metro and past metros is that this is essentially an open world game. And so you have a couple of dungeon type things that are more closed in, but a lot of it is just wandering around collecting scraps. You have a mobile inventory backpack with some crafting stuff in it now.
Nice animation.
So you can craft some more ammo. You can craft more health kits. You can craft
more ammo. Wow.
Yeah.
Dang.
So on the fly, you can only craft the really cheap steel ball ammo.
Okay. Got it.
But then if you go to they have workbenches around, and you can craft actual gunpowder ammo.
Huh.
And so yeah, it is a less structured metro, which in some ways is great. It's really fun. Like they've done a good job making the exploration part feel good. I don't know if you guys ever played Stalker back in the day, but it reminds me a lot of Stalker. On the other hand, it's very hard because you are constantly short on ammo already in these games.
Yeah.
And all these monsters just keep coming and keep coming.
I mean, that's how it is. It's going to be in the post-apocalypse.
Yeah, but in previous metros, it was always like, oh, I'm out of... oh my god, we need to just get out of here.
You're getting ganged up.
We got glorious kills saved, thanks NVIDIA.
Thank you.
So yeah, in previous metros, you would sort of like clear out a dungeon, and you kind of knew like, okay, I took out all those guys, and I don't need to worry about ammo now. In this one, I feel like you either are constantly like very high on ammo, like I am right now.
Because it's open world.
Yeah, like if you scrimp and save, and you use scrounge for crafting materials and stuff all the time, you'll end up with just a ridiculous amount of ammo. But also, it's very easy to just get in a bind if you don't want to do that stuff.
Would you say that the better tactic here is to like run, or do you have to encounter?
The better tactic, if you've ever played a Metro game, is to get really good at throwing knives, because they're a one-hit kill on like pretty much everything in the game.
Nice.
I went too far. We want that little container over there. Yeah, they're a one-hit kill on pretty much everything in the game, and then you can collect them, and they never lose durability. And so if you get really good with throwing knives, you can conserve a lot of ammo.
Nice.
That's what I've been doing for most of this game. There's some weird things, like in order to choose throwing knives, you have to hold down the key that's associated with this like D-pad thing down here.
But it's got the mouse icon.
Yeah,
right in the middle
because
of it.
you use the mouse to select things because we don't have a D-pad.
Yeah.
But like clearly it's not designed for that interface.
I really feel like we're getting the short shrift here again. Like I feel like there's been just this run of games that feels like it's the controls are for controller.
Yeah, well, and this one's really weird because Metro I think of as being a very PC series. So that one is strange to me. But other than that, like it uses the whole keyboard. So for instance, like I think you use B to get your backpack out, you use M to get your journal out, you use L to pull out your lighter, which is like all the way across the keyboard. So
weird.
Yeah, there's a lot of dexterous actions going on. But anyways, this dude is just kind of talking us through. We have like the next thing our mission here is you go and you steal a train from one of the it's a place called the Terminal. It's like this big island on the right side, this big rectangular island, and you eventually steal a train from there and then ride the train back to your base.
Huh, nice.
But we can go ahead. We can take a little nap while this guy's talking.
Oh, yeah, I'm tired.
We can move it to nighttime so everybody can get a look at nighttime.
I got to tell you what, this is a beautiful game.
So I'll say this is definitely the Metro engine, and the people are still very much Metro people, which is like the jankiest part of this game. And that's the weird thing is like the people look like a late 360 game, early Xbox One era people, and then all the environments are like some of the most stunning environments that I've ever seen in a video game. So that's a little bit weird. Our alarm sounds like a fire alarm or like a smoke detector for some reason.
Weird.
Sounds awful, but so I guess now is a good time to tell everybody we are running this with ray tracing on.
Yeah, RTX on, baby.
And Brad, do you want to talk a little bit about ray tracing in this game, and I'll do some crafting on the bench here.
Oh, perfect.
Sure. So NVIDIA's new RTX graphics cards, they have dedicated hardware that let you perform real-time ray tracing, long considered like the holy grail of games. Different games can choose different ways to use that. Like in Battlefield, they basically only use real-time ray tracing for reflections. So if you look in a window, if you look in a puddle, if you look on something shiny, you can see real-time reflections back at you. Metro Exodus is actually the first game to use global illumination. So basically what it's doing is getting rid of all the traditional lighting systems and actively real-time simulating the sun rays and moon rays from the game so that it's theoretically much more realistic.
And that's kind of what we're seeing here.
So yeah, we can like turn all the lights off in here, and
it's so dark.
It gets very dark in here. We get a little bit of moonlight reflection maybe, but that's about it.
I'm actually really excited to play this with global illumination on because ever since I went to Gamescom when RTX launched and I played around in an empty Battlefield map, and the most exciting thing about it for me is like I was like, man, this is cool, but imagine if they made like a Thief game with this. Yeah. And I feel like you can kind of get the feeling for that playing this game would be my guess.
Yeah, especially because like half of this game is just blowing out candles and stuff. I'm actually curious what your experience will be with it. Because like one of the things about Metro is you spend a lot of time just creeping through the dark like that. And with ray tracing off or with global illumination off, I can like turn off all the lights in an area and it gets dark, but I can still sort of navigate around. And from my understanding, when you turn all the lights off with the ray tracing enabled, it's going to get very dark. And I'm curious whether it actually becomes like sort of unplayable in parts. Not so much, not like, you know, unplayable, but just like trying to do the stealth without a flashlight and with no light sources around seems like it'll be quite a challenge.
And I'll say on here, if you want to pause for a second and show the people the option screen, we do have it enabled here. And we're running on a 2080 Ti with a i9 9900K. So I mean, how do you think how do you feel the performance is with it on?
NVIDIA tells us we are getting 130 frames per second with it on, which is pretty wild.
It's when at Gamescom when the ray trace games RTX cards were announced. The developers for this game actually said they were targeting 60 frames per second at 1080p, which is what you're playing. So to see it at 120 plus is very encouraging.
Yeah, that's awesome. And this is without DLSS, which we can't get to run.
Yeah, we can't
on
get
our
it
thing
to
right
stick,
now,
so that's why that's off. If you notice, so I can say like when I did this level, because I've played through this section. When I did this at my house,
which you don't have RTX.
Yeah, I don't have RTX on in my house. When I did this at my house, I could see a lot better than I can right now.
Huh? Interesting.
Do you consider that good or bad?
I consider it harder. I think the challenge is like it depends on whether the devs developed with that experience in mind. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like this is, I would say Metro is primarily a stealth game. It is not like an action shooter by any means.
Yeah.
And if I'm playing at my house and I'm trying to like stealth around and I can still sort of see with all lights off, that to me feels like the way that game was intended to be played, because like using your flashlight in this game alerts all the enemies to your presence. Like that's a thing that they will come check out and be like, hey, why does this guy have his flashlight on? And you're encouraged to like turn off. You see this guy's like standing by this lantern, and like you're encouraged to like kill that guy and then turn that lantern off so that nobody can see you standing over there. Or like turn this to like extinguish this fire over here. That's like the way that this game is intended to be played, and when you do that with the ray tracing on, I literally like can't see anything right now. Like I can't tell who's shooting at me. I can't see anything.
This is hard.
And so like that seems like if you want that sort of experience like that, it definitely seems more realistic. Do you know what I mean? Like you're not a guy who can see in the dark. And later on, you actually get a pair of night vision goggles, and so that seems like, oh man, that seems like if you had the night vision goggles and you were just playing it with the ray tracing stuff on, and it was completely dark, you wouldn't really care still.
Huh.
Like that's cool. That sounds like that hardcore stalker experience, which I think Metro has never really gotten to.
That makes me super intrigued to play it that way, actually.
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. Like, I'm curious how your experience will be, because I'm finding the game pretty easy as somebody who's played the other Metros. I can tell you, like, when I played this section last night, I literally got through the section, no problem, killed everybody without being spotted. And obviously, like, that has not been the case here. And I'm not even, like, 100% sure. Like I'm struggling to see anything.
Yeah, that's kind of an interesting thing that wasn't there in Battlefield, because in Battlefield,
yeah, it's just a running gun. Like you would never really care about the lighting. In that game.
Well, the promise was, hey, if you could accurately see an opponent around a corner because there was a reflection, then that could give you a tactical advantage. But I mean, this seems like even deeper gameplay ties than that.
I dig it.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. It's mainly just a question of like, oh, we're inside this car. It's still a little buggy. Yeah, it's mainly a question, as I said, of like what they developed for. If they developed with that sort of experience in mind of like, oh, this is gonna be really hardcore. That's cool. Oh,
is
that
he
guy was
giving up?
surrendering. Dang. Yeah, they do that sometimes.
Wow.
I just murdered him.
Wow, man.
Anyways, we saved these cultists.
There you go.
Good.
Okay, that doesn't sound good, but I don't trust you.
They give us the key to where we get the night vision goggles later, so it's actually pretty nice.
So, and what's your rig you're running at home specifically, and how's it doing?
It's
there?
a 1080 Ti, and it's a 5280K. We just said it at 5820. We said it the other day. Now I can't remember again. But yeah, it's a 6 core with a 1080 Ti. It's been running great. Okay. I have it all on Ultra, and it's been fine.
At 1080?
As you would
1080.
expect.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. 1080, like a 1080 Ti should be able to run everything at 1080 Ultra at this point. So the games where I haven't been able to do that, I've been actually pretty surprised. I want to say there was one recently that we couldn't run maxed out on that, and I was surprised. But yeah, I don't know. I'm really digging. I think this is really cool, having the global illumination and stuff. It's definitely a different take on Metro at that point. Like it very definitely feels like a different game, not being able to see inside these buildings.
Well, let's since we can disable it in real time. Why don't you turn it off right now? Let's see how it looks. See if it'll show up. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, like I can see all of these like bookcases and stuff.
Yeah.
These beds. Like all of this stuff, and I'm not sure how much of that will come through on the video.
Yeah, it's still a little dark on the video, but that's
it's definitely still dark in here. But like I can at least tell where objects are. Like I can see these reflections on the sides of these jars and know like, oh, there's a bookcase there. And when I go back and turn the RTX on, which takes a little bit longer than turning it off,
Huh. Okay. So there's a little bit of
Yeah,
processing
there's a
happening
wait.
in the background.
But like those
Oh,
reflections
yeah,
are almost
okay.
gone. Like you can tell
Yeah.
there's like those 3, but like the rest of this bookshelf is just nothing now.
Yeah. Interesting.
And like this bed over here, like you can barely see that bed except in relation to that stove.
Huh.
And this over here is just nothing. I can't even tell like what any of this is anymore.
I think that's really cool because that's much more realistic to what you would actually see in that environment.
Yeah,
but
and
I agree
and
that
that's the
it'll
thing,
totally
like-
depend on how the game's balanced.
Yeah, totally. Like that's the thing is if you want that experience, if you want that like very hardcore version of Metro, I think that's cool. I'm just not convinced, like especially because resources are so scarce in this game. I'm not convinced that that's going to be the easiest way to play. Like if you just have that card because you wanted to buy a new, you wanted to buy a top of the line card and then play Metro. I think that you're actually going to have like a much harder experience. Like we're just playing on normal right now, and that fight was definitely much more difficult than when I played at home.
Huh. Interesting.
So it'll definitely. I'll be curious to see how you feel about it, and then like as more reports start coming out of people playing it on with RTX on, I'll be curious to see how people feel about the difficulty tuning and all that. And that's interesting to me that like a graphics option could affect something like difficulty tuning, which we don't really think of as being tied to graphics usually. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
And I'm still glad the performance doesn't seem to take a huge hit.
Yeah, I mean we're
between
still,
on
as I
and
said,
off.
we're at 133. So like I don't know, the DLSS might have an effect on it. If we were able to-
DLSS is not enabled.
No, that's well, like if we turned it on, it might drop it a few more points.
Wasn't it supposed to bring it back up? Isn't that the idea?
Yeah, it's like it basically is like upscaling
Okay.
using dedicated machine learning hardware and
Oh, cool.
profiles and stuff, and you get higher performance basically with upscaling. That looks really good, so it's like higher performance for free basically is what
Oh,
it's
cool.
counted as, even though the cards are much more expensive.
So then, yeah, it's pretty amazing that we're getting 130 frames, sometimes dropping down to about 100, but in general 130 frames per second without that enabled. That's pretty impressive.
Ooh, nice.
I think it's
kill.
really cool that this is going to have DLSS and ray tracing from day one because Battlefield 5 didn't, and Shadow of the Tomb Raider still doesn't have RTX stuff in it like it said it would. So I think it's really cool that being there from day one.
Yeah, the only question is whether anybody will buy it.
Oh yeah, I mean that's the other big thing people are talking about is the whole Epic Store thing.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I mean, so we've talked about the Epic Store on a couple of occasions now, and my feelings on the Epic Store on a couple of occasions now. I will say, in theory, I don't mind the competition, and honestly, I don't mind having the other new launcher running. So I've been playing this on. It's been actually a pretty wild week because I've been playing this on the Epic Store. I've been playing Apex Legends on Origin. I've been playing Crackdown 3 through the Windows 10 store. And then I've been playing Far Cry New Dawn through Uplay. So,
So none of them are Steam.
I have not had a single Steam game this week for review, and we have had a lot of games to review.
It's a new era.
Yeah, it's definitely is interesting. I will say there are things about the Epic Store that I do not like. And I can see why people might be frustrated. So the big thing for us today has been there's no cloud saves on the Epic Game Store, which is sort of a unique problem for people like us who are
Yeah.
playing their games in multiple places. But also, it's a thing that I've kind of stopped thinking about as a reporter. Like we play a lot of games here in the office, and I just generally assume that any Steam game these days has cloud saves. That's not necessarily 100% true because Valve doesn't mandate that you add cloud saves. But if you're using any part of Steamworks, cloud saves are usually an easy thing to integrate. Just a side note, this is another great global illumination thing here. Like look at these, look at the contrast on
That
the left
is-
and right side of the screen here. I
Dang,
can't
that's
see
crazy.
anything on the right side. These like little tiny green mushrooms are actually much more useful in this version of the game.
This is getting me excited.
Yeah, this looks beautiful. So yeah, anyways, the I don't think about cloud saves really being a thing I have to worry about anymore, and it definitely has been with this game. We also had some weird stuff about like logging into different accounts on the Epic Game Store here and not detecting our saves. Just stuff that I don't really... it's sort of weird. And then obviously there's problems with like regional pricing has not been 100% stable with the Epic Store in terms of like everybody in the US gets $10 off from the baseline Steam price. But everybody outside of the US has not gotten that discount.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
I have not heard that.
And people were unhappy.
People were
about
very mad about that.
Yeah.
So like Steam was like hey, if you're in the EU, it costs like, I don't know, 50 euros or whatever. And it went up to 60 euros when they moved it over to the Epic Game Store. Stuff like that is just a bad look.
Well, yeah, because wasn't their whole thing saying like, "Hey, we moved over to Epic so that we can pass the savings on to you"?
Yeah, and it literally like they said that, and it is true if you're in the U.S. and we are in the U.S. and like that's how we pitch the story because it's like we are in the U.S. We're a U.S. based site, but we had a lot of people from outside the U.S. who were very upset about that for good reason. I think. Sorry, we're gonna run across this water.
Do it.
Dudes, just come out of there.
Well, Brad, in the meantime, what are your thoughts on the whole Epic Store thing and then Metro moving over from Steam?
It doesn't bother me at all. It's not a multiplayer game, so it's not like I have to worry too much about my friends list not being on Epic. In general, I think more competition's a good thing. I do think Epic Game Store is still definitely, you can tell that it's new.
It feels like a prototype. Like it feels like a thing that it's weird to me that game or that store was, they say, in development for like 3 years. Because it doesn't feel that way.
UI designer.
Yep, exactly. And that's the thing. Like, there's just weird stuff around the edges like that. Like, I hate having to find games in the Epic Game Store. Like, even games that I own, just going to my library screen feels very cluttered. There's just stuff like that I'm not very excited about with it.
And the cloud saves, like, that matters to me because I have, like, my gaming desktop, but I also have a gaming laptop.
Yep.
And I like to go between the two, and with Steam games, it's interchangeable.
Yep.
That'll be a concern. I won't be able to do that with this game.
There's just, like, it's that stuff around the edges, which I wrote a story about Bethesda Net when Fallout 76 came out, and how... like, most of the time, the biggest problem with these new storefronts is the actual storefronts themselves. And I feel like Epic's sort of done the same thing. Like, they launched a store. I was very excited for a Steam competitor that was not just one of the publishers, like, not Origin. They're not just going to publish EA games. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But then, like, it feels like the store they launched was not a full storefront. Like, you don't have... like, another one that's really weird. There's no achievements in the Epic store still. And like, it's not a huge thing. It's not a thing that I'm going to be like, I'm not going to play a game because it doesn't have achievements. But like in 2019, how do you launch a storefront without achievements? Do you know what I mean? Like, I just don't understand why you would think that was the way to go. Or you would look at that and be like, oh, we're done. Like, this is the way we want this.
I think that Epic is probably acting in good faith at this point because they've been around forever and they've been part of the PC community forever.
Yeah.
And I think, that they're putting good faith in it. I would not be surprised to see things improve very quickly. But I think it's interesting how the Epic Game Store's like Genesis kind of mirrors Steam's own because Steam, was built off the back of Half-Life 2.
Yep.
And now the Epic Game Store is, only here because of Fortnite.
Yeah, and that's I think that it will get better. The hard part is always like Valve has had 15 years to improve Steam at this point. And so trying to compete with 15 years of progress, that's a hard sell. And I don't know, Epic I think is doing a good job of like, as much as it annoys people, I think they're doing a good job of grabbing exclusives that matter, so that people might want to move over. Oh man, these night vision goggles come in so much handier on the ray traced version.
Right, man.
There is a reason for people to move over. Like, I love Metro. This was a game that I would have played regardless of what storefront it was on. Even if Deep Silver was like, we're gonna make our own launcher, I would have bought it on the Deep Silver launcher because I like Metro a lot, and I've been waiting for this game for what feels like forever. But there's just those edge quality of life things I think Epic has not sorted out. And it's a little bit frustrating to come into a game like this and be like, oh yeah, like I have no achievements. What a weird thing, a thing that I don't have to think about on any other game. Yeah,
I do think that it's the issue is kind of overblown on the internet. Like, you're running another piece of software on the hardware you already own. What's the big deal?
Yep.
But it does kind of, take the luster off of the new game shine.
Yep. It just like is one more bit of controversy around this launch. And as I said, like the game is really buggy. And I would say the same was true of Last Light and 2033 as well. So if you're a Metro fan, I assume you're already pretty accustomed to the jank. And I personally, like, I prefer a game that is janky but interesting, which I would say this one definitely is. But if you are like, I don't know, if you're sick of bugs or whatever, and you're just I want to play Metro and see how it goes, and then also it moves over to the Epic Store, and then you start hearing like, it's also buggy. I could see why you might be convinced to wait a year and then get it on Steam when it comes out in 2020. So, yeah.
Which is too bad, because I want more Metro games to happen. Because I love
absolutely.
these games, and I love this universe.
And these crazy things right here.
Yeah, what the hell?
That one's giant.
Yeah, well, and so like you can't see it because I have the night vision goggles on, but he's a different color than the rest, so he takes a bunch more ammo, which is why I was trying to take out some of the guys on the side. Oh, we're out of ammo. Oh no.
Whoops.
Thing that I did not have to worry about when I played through last time and just stealthed around. So yeah, we can probably cut this off at any time. We're in this this is like sort of the end game area for this section.
It does look beautiful though. This is,
you like come in here. We'll eventually get into. There's a train over to the side. Oh man, we are just running through ammo. These blue guys.
look at
really,
that barrel heating up.
There we go.
Man.
Oh, just so many.
Stab until it stops moving.
Obviously, now we could pull out our backpack, make some more of those little pellet ammo things, make some more throwing knives. So you have some options. But yeah, basically we would go through this whole dungeon. It goes on for quite a while. You go across this whole thing. Go across this whole section down here, and then eventually there's a train, which you can sort of see. He's like in here somewhere. And you ride that train all the way across the map, and that's what ends this Volga section. And then you move on to spring, because all of the maps are seasonal. So this is a winter map.
Interesting.
Then there's a spring map. There's a summer map, which takes place in the Siberian desert.
Wow.
We played a little bit of that in January, I want to say, at a preview event. And then there is a final map, I think, which I have not even seen yet. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to finishing it up. I'm really enjoying it so far. I'm really curious, Brad, to hear how your playthrough ends up going. Because I think the ray tracing has definitely been it's funny because NVIDIA had told us it's just sort of a feeling, you'll feel the ray tracing stuff, and I kind of was like, okay, whatever. But actually,
you were literally saying that before we started.
Yeah,
the stream.
I was worried that we were going to have a repeat of the Battlefield stuff, which is hey, this doesn't actually make any difference to me. It looks cool, and if you know what to look for, you can be like, wow, this is gonna be a really cool thing in 5 years. But I was not convinced that we were going to be able to see anything today that mattered. And instead, I think that I've actually come away really impressed. Just in terms of, especially this is the right game to showcase that stuff. If you want a really good contrast of light and dark scenario, this has a lot of them. So yeah, I'll be really curious, Brad, to see how your playthrough goes once you get around to it. So.
In addition to the playthrough, we're shooting this before the embargo lifts, but either when the embargo lifts and you can watch this video, or shortly after, I'm hoping to have a piece up examining the performance impact that ray tracing has on the game, so look for that on PC.com.
Nice. Awesome.
Well, cool. Thanks, Brad, for joining us. Hopefully we can do some more. Oh, there's our big whale friend.
Oh, goodness.
Hopefully we can do some more stuff like this with you.
Yeah, I'm down.
Fun. And thanks, Adam, as always,
of course,
for running this.
I'm here. I'm doing it.
And yeah, we
Thank
will
you, Hayden.
be back. We got so many games coming out this week. I'm sure we'll have more video.
Games.
So yeah, look for that, and we will see you soon.
See ya.